Do you think you know who you are? Are you sure? Because I'm going to tell you something that might sound absurd. The name you carry isn't you. The body you see in the mirror isn't you either. So who are you after all? Have you ever stopped to think that you might have spent your whole life believing a lie about your own identity? Now, I'm going to take you somewhere few dare to go. Inside yourself. Because if you don't discover who's really in control of your life, you'll continue living on autopilot, reacting, repeating patterns that aren't yours. If this bothers you, great. It's a sign that you're about to change. When someone asks, "Who are you?" what's your first response? Usually you say your name, your profession, maybe your age or where you live. But I'm going to tell you something that might seem strange. None of that is you. Your name isn't you. Your profession isn't you. Your body isn't you. These are just labels you've received, roles you've assumed, but they don't define who you truly are. Think about it for a moment. When you say, "my body, my hand, my leg," do you realize that there's something inside you that owns the body? So, who is this owner? Most people never stop to ask themselves this question. They believe they are only what they can see in the mirror, and they spend their whole lives trapped in this illusion. That's why so many people feel lost, insecure, and believe they're worthless. Because when you identify only with your appearance, or with what others have told you you are, you live a limited life. How many times have you believed you weren't capable of achieving something because someone told you so a long time ago? How many times have you looked in the mirror and thought, "That's it, this is me, I can't change"? I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. 95% of people spend their entire lives without discovering who they really are. They react to what happens, follow patterns, repeat stories that aren't theirs, simply because they never learned to look within. Did you know that most of the time you're living on autopilot, copying the behavior of those around you? Since childhood, you've been conditioned to think and act in a certain way, and as you grow up, you continue following this pattern without even realizing it. But I want you to understand this. You are not just a body walking on earth. You are not the name on your birth certificate. You are a spiritual being with a powerful mind, inhabiting a physical body. And here's something even deeper. What you see in the mirror is merely the physical manifestation of what happens in your mind. This means that the image you have of yourself inside is controlling everything in your life, what you do, how much you earn, where you go. And why is this so important? Because if you don't discover who you really are, you'll continue believing in the illusion and letting circumstances decide for you. You'll keep saying, I can't manage, this is just how I am." But what if all of that is a lie? What if you are much more than you imagine? Have you ever stopped to think about that? I myself lived for years without knowing this. I thought my life was limited by my past, by my wrong choices, by my lack of education. I believed I was just a guy who dropped out of school, who bounced from job to job and would never achieve anything great. But everything changed when I started asking myself this simple question: who am I really? Not who does the world say I am, but who I truly am inside. Now I want you to reflect. Who is in control of your life today? Is it you, truly, or are they the beliefs that were imposed on you? Because as long as you believe you're just a name, a profession, a body, you'll continue to live a limited life. But the moment you understand that there's something much greater within you, that you're capable of creating anything, everything will change. So I'm going to ask you a question that might be uncomfortable. Do you really know who you are? Think carefully, because most people don't, and maybe that's why so many live frustrated, unhappy, without purpose. But that doesn't have to be your case. You can choose to know yourself. You can choose to take control and discover the power that has always been within you. And when you do, you'll realize that the person you thought you were never existed. It was just a false image, created by everything you've heard, everything you've learned, everything you've accepted as true. And that's liberating, because if that image wasn't real, you can create a new one. A powerful image, full of confidence, capable of attracting everything you desire. Now tell me, are you ready to stop living the illusion and discover who's really in command? Because believe me, it's not the world out there, it's you. It always has been. From the moment you were born, something started happening without you realizing it. You were programmed. Programmed by your parents, by school, by television, by the environment in which you grew up. Every word you heard, every attitude you witnessed, every belief repeated to you. All of that was recorded in your subconscious. And do you know what the problem is? This programming governs your life today. Want to see how true this is? How many times have you heard phrases like, "Money doesn't buy happiness. You have to work hard to make a living. Dreaming big is dangerous because disappointment hurts more"? I bet more than once. And without realizing it, you accepted these ideas as absolute truths. They settled into your mind, creating a pattern that now controls how you think, feel, and act. Now, here's something that might scare you. 95% of everything you do every day is governed by your subconscious. This means you don't make decisions based on what you really want, but rather on what you've been conditioned to believe. That's why so many people want to prosper but can't. Because however much their mouth says, "I want more money," their mind screams, "You don't deserve it, that's wrong, it's impossible for you." I lived through this for years. I dropped out of school, had no qualifications, and kept jumping from one bad job to another, even worse one. I worked in factories, gas stations, doing things I hated. And do you know what was worst? I believed that was all I deserved. I looked at successful people and thought, they're different. I can't be like that. That was my programming. Until one day, I heard something that changed everything. If you don't like the results you're getting, you need to change yourself, because they are your results. That hit hard. For the first time, I realized it wasn't the circumstances that were holding me back. It was me. Now, I want you to think about your life. How many times have you tried to change, but it felt like something was pulling you back to the same place? How many times have you made a New Year's resolution, started enthusiastically, and then stopped? It's not a lack of willpower, it's programming. It's like trying to run a new app on an old operating system. It simply doesn't work. And do you know what's even crueler? This programming isn't your fault. It started when you were a child and didn't have the awareness to question anything. When you were little, your mind worked like a sponge, absorbing everything without a filter. If you grew up hearing that money is dirty, that rich people are dishonest, guess what will happen when you try to prosper? Your own subconscious will sabotage you because it believes that being rich is a bad thing. And it doesn't stop there. It's not just about money. It's about relationships, health, success. If someone told you that you weren't good enough, that you didn't have the ability, that became part of your identity. And now you carry it as if it were true. But it's not. It's just a program, and any program can be rewritten. Now let me ask you something. How many times have you caught yourself acting exactly like your parents did, even though you promised you'd never be like that? That's the power of programming. It's so strong that you repeat patterns you don't even like, simply because that's what's ingrained in you. And do you know what else amazes me? Most people never discover this. They spend their whole lives blaming the lack of opportunities, the government, the economy, luck, but they never stop to look within and realize that the real prison is in their minds. But I want you to understand something now. This prison can be broken. You don't have to live trapped by these old beliefs. And it all starts when you decide to take control and question what's in your subconscious. Because as long as you don't do that, you'll continue living a life that isn't yours, but rather the life that was programmed for you. So tell me, will you continue letting this programming decide who you are? Or will you start rewriting your story? Because believe me, it's possible. I did it. And if I could do it, without education, without prospects, without anything, you can too. The question is, are you ready to stop living on autopilot and take the reins of your own mind? There was a man I met once, and this story has never left my mind. He was intelligent, talented, had everything to succeed. But there was a problem. He didn't believe in himself. Since he was little, he heard that he wasn't good enough, that he couldn't dream big, that he needed to settle for little. This idea slowly crept into his head until it became an absolute truth. He grew up, got a mediocre job, the kind that pays the bills but doesn't fulfill dreams. Every day he woke up, went to work, did what he had to do, came home, and thought, is that all there is? Is life really just this? But he never dared to change. Why? Because the image he had of himself was weak. He didn't believe he was capable, didn't believe he deserved more. Then the company downsized. And guess what? He got laid off. It was like the ground vanished beneath his feet. He had no plan B, no entrepreneurial courage, no faith to rebuild. I watched this man crumble. In a short time, he lost almost everything, not just his job, but his confidence, his joy, his hope. And this didn't happen because he was incapable. It happened because he believed he was incapable. Now I want you to stop and think. How many people do you know who live like this? Maybe it's you. Perhaps you're stuck in a job you hate, but you lack the courage to leave because you think you can't manage. Maybe you dream of starting a business, but you believe it's not for you. How many opportunities have passed you by because a voice in your head said, you can't do it? Let me ask you another question. How much has this already cost you? I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about dreams, time, happiness. How many times have you missed out on something extraordinary because you believed the lie that you weren't good enough? When I think of that man, I don't see someone unlucky. I see someone who lived under the dominion of a false self-image their entire life. Because here's the truth, your self-image is like a thermostat. It determines how far you'll go. It doesn't matter if you win the lottery. If that image doesn't change, you'll find a way to return to the same point. That's why so many people get rich and then lose everything. They never changed on the inside. And I'll tell you something that might hurt to hear. If you don't stop now to change that image, you'll pay a high price. You'll continue living a life that's not the life you want. You'll get to the end, look back and ask yourself, why didn't I do things differently? And there's nothing more painful than the regret of not having lived up to your full potential, but it doesn't have to be that way for you. No matter where you are, no matter what they told you you were, you can change. But it starts with a choice, the choice to no longer accept this limiting lie. So tell me, with complete honesty, how much longer will you allow a false image to dictate your destiny? Because until you decide to change it, nothing will change on the outside. Everything that exists in the world today began as an idea. Every building you see, every car that passes on the street, every technology you use was first born in someone's mind. Nothing comes from nothing. First, there's an image, and that image transforms into reality. Now think, if that's true for everything around you, why would it be different with your life? I discovered this when I realized I was trapped in a reality I didn't want, but that I myself had created. I believed I couldn't, that I wasn't capable, and my life reflected that exactly. Bad jobs, debt, lack of perspective. Until one day someone told me, if you don't like what's happening, change the image you have in your mind. At first, I thought it was crazy. How can you change your life just by changing your thoughts? But I was so tired of living the way I was living that I decided to try. And I didn't start with anything but a piece of paper. I wrote exactly how I wanted to live. I visualized it every day. It wasn't easy because my mind kept telling me, you're dreaming too big. This will never happen. But I kept going, and something started to change. First, within me, I started to believe. Then, opportunities started to appear. People I didn't know showed up with ideas, doors opened. In less than a year, I went from an ordinary job to having my own business that grossed over $100,000. Without education, without experience, without luck. Just because I created that image in my mind and believed in it until it became real. Now I want you to understand something. The mind is like a projector. The image you put inside it will appear on the screen of your life. If you think scarcity, you live scarcity. If you think abundance, you attract abundance. Not because it's magic, but because your thoughts determine the actions you take, the people you connect with, and even the opportunities you see. It's science. Psychology has already proven that what we focus on expands. But let me ask you a question. What image are you projecting now? When you think about the future, do you see yourself thriving or struggling to pay the bills? When you look in the mirror, do you see someone capable or someone limited? Because that image will govern everything. No matter how much you want to change, if that image remains the same, your life will remain the same. Now, think of people who have transformed the world. Edison, before inventing the light bulb, dreamed of it. Walt Disney envisioned an empire when everyone laughed at him. Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty, but she created in her mind the image of who she wanted to be. And today, she is one of the most influential women on the planet. None of this would have happened if they believed what they saw around them. They believed in what they saw within. And I know you might be thinking, but I'm not Edison, I'm not Oprah. And I tell you, neither were they until they decided who they would be. So I ask, who are you choosing to be? Because believe me, you can choose. You can stay stuck with the old image, or you can start now to create a new one, full of power, confidence, and possibilities. And don't think this is fantasy. Everything that exists began as fantasy. The difference between dreamers and achievers is that achievers believe so much in what they dream that they turn it into fact. And you can do the same. Now tell me, if you could put a new image in your mind today, a perfect image of the life you desire, what would it be like? Think about it, because this is the key to changing everything. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this with me. If you could write your life from scratch, without limits, what would it be like? Where would you be living? What car would you be driving? What would your routine be like? The people around you? What would you be feeling? It doesn't matter if this seems impossible or distant now. Just create that image. See? That's the first step to changing everything. Now, why does this work? Because your mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined when you become emotionally involved with an idea. That's how you start to reprogram who's in control, replacing old images with new ones. Your life is a reflection of what you carry inside your mind. So if you want to change what's outside, start by changing what's inside. I want you to do this every day. Take a piece of paper and write exactly how you want to live. But write it in the present tense, as if it's already happening. Something like, I am so happy and grateful now because I live in an incredible house. I have financial freedom. My life is abundant and prosperous. Don't skimp on the details. Describe the colors, the sounds, the sensations. The more real it seems, the faster your mind will accept it. And here's something very powerful. Read this every day, morning and night. And as you read, feel as if you're already living it. If your mind says, this is a lie, don't believe it. Keep going, because repetition creates belief, and belief creates reality. That's how you take control of your mind. Now, I want to give you a challenge. It's not optional. It's a commitment to yourself. For the next 30 days, do this without fail. Every day, morning and night, visualize and read what you wrote. And here's the secret: don't just read, feel it, because emotion is the language that the subconscious understands. If you do this for 30 days, something will change. You'll start to notice coincidences, opportunities, the right people appearing. You'll realize that, without even knowing how, things start to move in your favor. I know you might be thinking now, will this really work? And I tell you, it works. It works because your mind is like a magnet. When you change the frequency of what you think, you begin to attract everything that is in that frequency. And this is not magic, it's law. It's the law of attraction. You don't need to believe me now, you just need to try it. But do it seriously, because most people can't change their lives because they don't commit to something so simple for even 30 days. Now think, if you continue doing what you've always done, where will you be in a year? In the same place. But if you do this for 30 days, just 30 days, you can take the first step towards the life you've always dreamed of. So tell me, do you accept the challenge? Because control has always been in your hands. It just depends on you taking it back. There's a law that governs everything in the universe, and few people know this. It's the law of polarity. Everything has two sides, day and night, hot and cold, positive and negative. And when it comes to your life, this means you always have two choices: to look at scarcity or abundance, at the problem or the solution. It seems too simple, doesn't it? But it's this choice that changes everything. I'll tell you something that will make you think. What happens in your life doesn't depend only on circumstances. It depends on how you choose to interpret them. One person loses their job. What do? They might think, it's over, my life is ruined. And that idea will bring more fear, more insecurity, more closed doors. Another person goes through the same situation and thinks, this is a chance to start something new, something bigger. And that idea attracts courage, ideas, opportunities. What's the difference? It's not what happened, it's how the mind chose to react. Most people live reacting to the negative side without realizing that there is a positive side to absolutely everything. Even in the most difficult moments, when something bad happens, you might not understand it right away, but there's a seed of growth in there. If you look at it with the right mindset, you'll see it. But if you choose to focus on what can't be, you'll sink. That's the law. Now tell me, what have you been choosing lately? When you think about the future, do you think about possibilities, or do you think about everything that could go wrong? Because your thoughts don't just stay in your head. They create feelings, and feelings determine your actions. And your actions create your results. It all starts with that choice. I remember when I started studying this, I realized I spent years choosing the wrong side. Whenever an opportunity arose, the first thing I'd think was, what if it doesn't work out? I was programmed for the negative. And guess what I attracted? More situations to confirm it. When I changed my choice to, how can this work? My life began to change. I didn't know how, but I started attracting people, ideas, and paths I would never have seen before. And here's a paradigm shift for you. When something bad happens, smile. That's right. Smile and ask yourself, what's the hidden good in this? I know it sounds crazy, but it completely changes your vibration. You stop being a victim and become a creator. This simple question opens your mind to see solutions where you only saw problems before. Now, I want you to understand this. You can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose how you're going to react. And it's that choice that will decide whether you'll live trapped in negativity or create an extraordinary life. The question is, which side will you choose from today onwards? Now that you've come this far, something inside you has already changed. You've started questioning what you believe to be true your whole life. And I know some things I've said may have stirred you, maybe even felt uncomfortable. And that's good, because it's a sign that you're breaking free from old programming and starting to take control. But let me tell you something. What you've heard today is just the beginning. It's like opening a door to a new world, but what's on the other side goes far beyond what you can imagine. Now that you understand that your identity is an illusion and that you can choose who you want to be, it's time to take the next step. In the next video, I'll show you something that can change everything. How to adjust your frequency to attract exactly what you desire. Money, opportunities, relationships, it all starts with the right frequency. And I promise, when you understand this, you'll feel like you've ascended to another level of consciousness. So don't stop here. Keep moving forward. Because you're not just watching a video, you're building a new version of yourself. And I want to be with you in the next step of this journey. Thank you for being here, for dedicating your time and energy to grow. I'll see you in the next video.